We find an illegal foreigner here who is not supposed to be here. One way home. Any illegal foreigner who doesn't have a right to be here or doesn't have papers, we've already done so. Quite a number of people have been taken today, 200 and something. Now, clearly, the issue of poisoned drinks and all of that is now a kind of a trend in Gauteng. Surely, we are going to get to the bottom of this and deal with it decisively. And what we are doing, I have an appointment with my colleague in Home Affairs. We are going to be making sure that
of these buildings. Here with me is the Minister of Police, Mchunu. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to speak to us. The issue of hijacked buildings is a problem, particularly in the city of Johannesburg, where we've seen loss of life and fires which have started due to the fact that people are living in unsafe buildings. And yet we see you here trying to reclaim those buildings, as well as to carry out drug busts, as well as try and clamp down on illegal immigration. Why have you chosen to start here, and why are you choosing to start with reclaiming those lost buildings which have been lost to illegal occupants?
No, yesterday we had a gathering for the whole day with the city of Ekurhuleni, and the main purpose was to sign the agreement of cooperation. We call it a cooperation agreement between SAPS, the province of Gauteng, and the city of Ekurhuleni. We are putting together all our resources. When I say all our resources that are set aside for safety from all the three spheres of government, whether it is personnel, whether it is vehicles, whether it is any other finance to finance activities, but we're putting all those things together. We're lining up our officers so that they face one direction where criminals are. Just in the building down here, it's a building where it is written, what is it? Scrapyard. But when you get inside, there are various homes. I've never seen Mkuku within Mkuku. So the owner is a foreigner. And he hires some space for people to build in Mkuku. And surely electricity and water that works there, the mayor was there. He was sweating to see how he illegally, because if they are using illegal electricity or using electricity illegally and water illegally, it means the mayor is also illegally supplying it. It's a two-way thing.
Certainly.
Therefore, it's a huge problem that we have to tackle, and it requires us to spend a moment, walk on foot, building by building, and deal with all these things.
Well, Minister, I must take you to the city of Johannesburg. What you saw inside there is nothing in comparison to what you see in the city of Johannesburg.
Fortunately, we are going to Johannesburg on Thursday. We are doing a similar thing, signing a cooperation agreement. And once we sign that cooperation agreement, all of us, very, very little sleep, fewer hours to sleep. And as for officers, we told them that they must say to their families, Shail, we are going to be out there most of the hours of the day and night until we are satisfied that we have relatively dealt with the criminality and the environment, because we can't be complaining about high levels of crime, but we don't do anything. We go sit somewhere else. He goes and fly and go to other countries and so on and leave criminals here.
Minister, what sort of recourse are we going to see? What sort of law enforcement are we going to see in order to try and reclaim these old buildings? buildings that have been illegally occupied, such as the one that you were inside. We know the issue of getting a court order and so on in order to evict people. What processes are you then going to use? What laws are you going to use in order to ensure that you reclaim these buildings?
No, South African police are going to be working together with law enforcement and metro officers. But there's also Home Affairs. As you come across any person here, Home Affairs here to verify whether legal or not legal. So we're now having a huge machinery. And I'm quite impressed with the number of Metro Police, just the number, which means the boots, which means vehicles, which means any other equipment that we need to deal with crime in this city. We are up to it, but we are going to be slowly but sure, and we're going to do it in a sustainable way.
Now, the issue of counterfeit goods is one that is very topical, and we do understand that one of the things that you will be undertaking while on this raid is closing down shops where you find that there is there are counterfeit goods that are being sold there. Now, the other issue is that there are children who have died in Naledi. 5 children have died after consuming products that they allegedly purchased from an illegally owned Spaza shop, right? What are you going to do to ensure that we don't see more children dying as a result of consuming products that have been allegedly laced with poison, because it seems as though these kids died allegedly from rat poison?
Now, clearly, the issue of poisoned drinks and all of that is now a kind of a trend in Gauteng, or rather some parts of Gauteng. You'll recall, this is not the first incident. What now means is that we mustn't wait for another incident and then react. It means first we must put intelligence, deploy intelligence to just check the whole of Gauteng. What is it that is happening? We can't just leave it to parents and leave it to schools. We just have to do the profile of all these areas and the owners of these businesses and so on, while checking each and every incident. Surely we are going to get to the bottom of this and deal with it decisively and once and for all. But all these other sins that you are counting, we don't leave anything behind. Any illegal foreigner who doesn't have a right to be here or doesn't have papers, we've already done so. Quite a number of people have been taken today, to 200 and something. And what we're doing, I have an appointment with my colleague in Home Affairs. Very soon that meeting will. We are going to be making sure that we have a process. We find an illegal foreigner here who is not supposed to be here, one way home. That is what we're going to do, because we don't have time to have repeat offenders all the time.
Of course.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate now what's going on with these Spaza shops in South Africa, where there was a report, I think was last week, that there's been some poisoning. There's been some poisonous commodities being imported or probably smuggled into the country and being sold as commodities at the Spaza shops. And they've actually led to some deaths of children. And I think that's what Police Commissioner now, Mchunu, is trying to lead the way. You could hear from the video how he spoke about how these Spaza shops actually have sub-Spaza shops within them, housing illegal foreigners. And so the Spaza shops seem to be one of the ways in which illegal migration is being increasingly going undetected in South Africa. And so it's really interesting that the police commissioner himself is leading that fight. But I thought that there was a really interesting report on how the case in which I think there was this kid who actually lost his life, because of one of the commodities that were bought at these Spaza shops at Naledi in Soweto. So it says that residents of Naledi, Soweto, they've actually continued to force Spaza shops owned by migrants to close after 5 children died of suspected food poisoning. So this community members at Naledi, Soweto on Wednesday, that particular Wednesday, I think it was last week Wednesday, they actually started going from shop to shop, in Naledi there, from Spaza shop to Spaza shop, forcing those who they believed were migrants who owned these Spaza shops to pack up and leave. Okay, they noted in their voice, they said they are fed up and that they are asking how many children must die before the government puts an end to this madness of Spaza shops in South Africa. There was a record of 6 children dead, by consuming different chips, biscuits, and all that were actually bought from these Spaza shops. And it says that the deaths, they were the latest were actually as a result of suspected food poisoning, and many of them are unresolved by South Africa's, security systems or agencies as in that way. So one of the residents in Naledi says that our way forward is that all Pakistani Spaza shops must not leave temporarily, but they must leave for good. There was another Ethiopian shop owner who's actually arguing. I think he's speaking to the Daily Maverick journalist here, saying that they're part of the community and that they cannot sell expired food. But anyway, most of the allegations are the fact that most of these Spaza shops sell expired commodities, expired food, and at the end of the day, when some of the residents buy them, they end up getting complications in their bodies, and it has led to deaths of 6 children. I think there was this really interesting one that said that community members in Naledi suggested that this week's death was actually linked to rat poison. And so, although tests have not confirmed it anyway, but it's quite a really disturbing development coming up, in that regard. If poisons can actually be sneaked into the communities in society in South Africa, that's a new way of kind of like carrying out a really silent war. Even amidst the what Neil the Bear would call a war going on, where there are 82 deaths spanning from violence and crime in South Africa. But to add this whole poisoning dimension to that would really, not really be a good one, because it would only simply increase the numbers of deaths we're seeing in South Africa going forward. And so this is the reason why Police Commissioner Senzo Mchunu is actually taking the lead himself. I think he has a really difficult job in this his regime, because I saw one of your comments who said that Becky Selle really left him a lot of terrible legacy that he has to sort of like clean up, and so he has to lead the hunt himself. If you follow the last massacre at Lusigisigi, I think I'll make a video on that where he spoke about how the people who were massacred in that event were not human beings, because the way they massacred the people in Lusigisigi was actually really pitiful, and was something that really, really terrible. So this whole thing with Spaza shops now, it actually also takes me back to what Gaty Mackenzie, the shoulders upon which he campaigned against illegal migration, that most of these commodities that get into South Africa are smuggled, they're illegal, they're dangerous to society. I guess probably this is what he meant, because if most of these things can actually now allow smuggling of poison into South Africa, then it might actually be another dimension of a war that the society in South Africa might be going through. And the police has to really get on their toes to kind of like check that. But anyway, that's what I'll be stopping here. What do you guys think about this raid? Senzo Mchunu's speech here in this province where he's actually leading the fight against Spaza shops and illegal migration. Share your thoughts in the comments.